I know how that felt to see that and to know that that's what your friends thought about me. And I'm like, how do I recover from that when that's what you're telling them? You know, in your friends' eyes, this is who I am. And I can't come back from that.
We RAD Dads, bringing a soft edge to a hard topic. Join us every week as we talk to real people with real stories, from the everyday single parent to family professionals, and find entertainment along the way. Join me, Walter J. Eggers, as I discover and share wisdom. Positive changes start here.
All right, here it is. The long-awaited, or maybe not so long, but definitely much anticipated second half of my interview with Cori Richter, who happens to be my son's mom. Again, super excited that Cori was able to join us on the podcast, join me on the podcast, join all of us, I guess, in effect, wherever you're listening. And one thing to note is that this was really perpetrated. That sounds like a criminal act. Perpetuated, I guess. That's a better one. By Cori. She was the one who wanted to come on the show. It's something we had talked about at length for the past year or so, and she was really excited about it. And we have an announcement toward the end of this show, as well as listener Q&A that we got straight from the We RAD Dads Facebook group. Guys, if you're not on the group yet, what are you waiting for? All right, just go over there. Facebook.com, right? Search out We RAD Dads, find the group, answer the entry question, which is very simply, why do you deserve to be in the We RAD Dads Facebook group? Why do you deserve it? Tell me. Not just some simple answer like, tell me, hey, I'm a divorced dad of 2 kids and I want to be a better person. Like that's a pretty good answer. You could probably use that. All right, there you go. Softball. Anyway, second half of my conversation with Cori Richter, my son's mom, and a little bit of listener Q&A. So guys, if you got your questions in, prepare to have them featured. And she does a really good job answering these. So I hope you're enjoying it so far. I hope you're having a great day, and this makes it better. So here we go. Second half interview with Cori Richter.
It's unfortunate that not every person can have the kind of relationship like we have with our son. But I think that the best part about it is for somebody to know that they have tried everything that they can and not have that looking back on their past and saying, I should have done this, or I could have done that, or what if I had said this instead? You know, would it have changed anything? This way you can look at your situation and say, I did everything that I could and it still isn't working.
Huge.
And not have that guilt or that regret, and that you have tried your best for your children.
Huge. That is huge right there. And I'm really happy that you've seen that, taken that away. I mean, the lack of regret, for lack of a better term, the lack of knowing that you put it all out there, and whether it worked or not, you did everything you could, and to walk away satisfied going, okay, all right. Instead of the what if. And that was one of the driving factors why I won't take this on myself, but we ended up working to a place where we are right now. I think we both had that epiphany, if you will, to where, you know, let's just see where it goes. I mean, it was baby steps at first, real baby steps. And I know there was other outside influences, you know, family members on both sides, like, oh, well, you know, blah, 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 protect yourself, that's what family does, right? As a parent, that's what we do to our kids. We try and protect them. Sometimes we tell them what they want to hear, but, you know, in reality, nobody knows your situation but you, and you've got to get yourself out there, put yourself out there as best you can, so that good, bad, or indifferent, you can move forward and put that to rest. So baby steps is what I would say as far as starting that situation. We could continue going on. I wanted to address something that we talked about briefly. You mentioned that you in the Facebook group and how there's very few women in the Facebook group, and tell a story real quick how you got in the Facebook group, because to be honest with you, I was so done with communicating with you entirely when I moved out, especially on the social networks. I felt like, I'll be honest with you, I felt like no matter what I was doing, I was being judged by both you and the close people in your lives, whether or not that's true. I felt that way. And I would still try to continue to, like, I would bring Brett our son to your work. And so you could see him and try to be still the good guy despite the bad situation.
Right.
And I think I would hope that helped us kind of repair a lot of the damage that had been done to that point. And maybe I was trying to show up to other people and say, you know, I'm not that guy you think I might be, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. What are my estimations correct? How did other people react to our situation when it first kind of fell apart in my eyes and fell apart between us?
I mean, other than my family, I didn't really talk about it a lot.
No.
I didn't talk about it at work unless it was to, you know, a select couple of people, and it was very vague. You know, it was, things aren't going great right now, and he's moved out, you know, he's moved downstairs into the guest house, and I don't really know what's going to happen, or guest room.
Yeah.
But I didn't really go into a lot of detail, for a couple of different reasons. You know, it was overwhelming, and it was sad. And I didn't want to talk about it at work, because that was kind of my escape at that time.
Yeah.
Going to work and just focusing on that stress of my life.
Yeah.
Good Lord. And just kind of not thinking about it for a while, for, you know, 12, 13 hours out of my day. So I didn't, and then also, I'm not sure if you remember this, but I remember at one point in our relationship, I had come across a text message that you sent to another friend of yours about
I remember this. Yeah.
How horrible I was. And
I regret that, but go ahead.
And it was like, I don't want to be that person that just talks crap about you, because I know how that felt to see that, and to know that that's what your friends thought about me. And I'm like, how do I recover from that when that's what you're telling them? You know, in your friends' eyes, this is who I am, and I can't come back from that.
I appreciate you sharing that. And I feel terrible. I still feel terrible about that particular episode and how I mishandled that situation and mishandled your feelings, I guess, is the way I would say that. I remember you were very upset at that. And it's one of those things that I shouldn't have done. And once it happened, it was another one of those things that led toward We RAD DADS, is that I was becoming the thing I didn't want to become, that, you know, shit slinger, so to speak. And I saw where that path was going. I did damage at that point. And I will tell you that to this day, at that time, to this day, this entire period, those people that I said that to never believed that. I think they understood that I was kind of in grief, and I appreciate that grace from them. But it doesn't undo the hurt and the damage that it caused to you specifically and our relationship. So
right.
I deeply regret that one. And it's nice to be able to tell you that, just not face to face, obviously, but it's nice to be able to have this conversation and kind of help, if it will, heal those older kind of wounds. Let's be honest. I'm not that person anymore.
No, not at all. And I mean, I haven't thought about that moment in years. You know, I don't hold it against you anymore. I know that it was a horrible time in both of our lives, and it was, it is what it is, you know?
Yeah. Luckily,
but I don't think about it, you know?
Yeah. Thank you. I do occasionally. So luckily it sounds like it's kind of water under the bridge that's slowly evaporating at this point.
Yes.
And thank God, because we've kind of built a new track, and, you know, let's step out of the bad and start into the good. I think that it's really important not only for people to hear our story and then the things that we've overcome to get to where we are, but let's celebrate some of the wins. I mean, there's very few people that given this whole situation, and I feel extremely grateful to be turned to at this point. And it may be because of the podcast directly, and it may be because of the relationship. It may be the focus and attentiveness to our son. I don't know specifically, but I am extremely proud that you felt confident enough to leave your infant daughter with me as her very, very first babysitter.
Yeah,
and she was super young.
She was like a month old, maybe 2 at the most. She slept the whole time. I remember that.
That was nice.
I went for my job interview with the new job, and it was like, okay, I have this interview. It's scheduled. I don't have a babysitter. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? And I reached out to friends on Facebook and nobody was available. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I can just reschedule the interview. It's not that big of a deal.
You did. You actually, that's why you called and you're like, oh, I have this interview and I was rescheduled. And I as I recall, maybe I got this wrong.
Yeah,
but I did offer.
I think that sounds about right.
I did offer. And I was, to be honest with you, I was kind of surprised that you took me up on it, but I was very happy.
I do remember saying, I need to talk to my husband about that.
Yeah.
But I'll get back to you.
Yeah. What did you think when I offered that up? Like, did you think I was still crazy?
Oh, I always think you're crazy.
Well, that's my thing.
But I don't remember, honestly, what I thought about that.
So short story long, she ended up here and you guys decided it was acceptable.
I think she was only there for like an hour, maybe.
Yeah. But I honestly
she slept the whole time.
I felt that you said that. I felt really proud that we had built that relationship at that point to have me babysitting your new daughter with your husband. Given our history up to that point, and that had only been a year to that point.
Maybe.
Yeah,
or maybe a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
I think a big part is you and I had kind of become the, like quote unquote roommates that talked about only what we needed to by the time my husband came into the picture. He wasn't around for, when shit was going down and we were miserable and we hated each other and we hated being around each other. And it was just like, it was tough. So he never saw that side of things as much, I don't think. And so he had always kind of seen all right, we're going to try and work this out. And it may be difficult, but we're going to communicate with each other as best as we can. And I know, a big part of this whole process was the night that you and my husband went and met for coffee.
Oh, God, yeah, I remember that. Ooh.
That was before he and I had gotten married. And I just remember going, oh my gosh, I can't believe that this is happening right now.
Yeah, that was rough.
And then I remember you came home and didn't really want to talk about it. And so then I tried to call him and I don't know what he was doing, but it took me like 45 minutes or an hour for him to finally call me back. And in my head, I'm going, oh my God, what did they say? What did he say? Like, is he going to talk to me ever again? What just happened?
I was shocked that you didn't really intervene and say, no, you guys can't talk, either to me or to your husband. And luckily that meeting actually, it was super awkward, but it was one of those things it was a very face your fears moment for me and probably for him too, for all of us, let's just say.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things I have to do this for me again, cause if I don't want to have the regret of going, not setting the expectation, not extending, not so much an olive branch, but at least opening a communication channel between us all. And it hasn't been perfect. But I think that hopefully it started us off in a path that's now led us to where we are.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. And I wasn't really worried. I mean, I was worried obviously about what in the world is going to be said. And I know that you and I were not very, friendly with each other at the time.
Very
and so
businesslike. Very businesslike.
What kind of stuff is were you going to tell him? I had no idea.
Yeah. I made a conscious decision not to try and drag you through the mud, as I had in that text conversation with another friend. And, I learned from that instance, and it was like, that's not who I am, and that's not who I want to be. And if this thing, like, I have no control over you, and at that point, your to-be husband, I have no control over whether you're going to get married, but I can control how I show up to not only you, but I can control how I show up to him. And if I don't show up as a total,
but at that point, I hadn't seen that side of you. And
Yeah.
I was just like, oh my gosh, he just wants to sit down and just talk trash to this new man in my life because maybe he's feeling threatened. Maybe he just wants me to be miserable. I don't know.
Yeah.
So it was a big leap of faith for me to be like, all right, yeah, let's give this a try. Cause I knew who my husband was as a person, and I knew how he saw me as a person. And I had been very honest with him about our relationship and how things had gone and my past. And I didn't feel like there was really anything that you could say that would change the way he viewed me, but it was still, it's scary.
Has he talked to you since about what we talked about?
I talked to him about it that night a little bit. But I just remember you didn't want to say anything to me about it. It was, hey, how'd it go? Fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, to be expected at that point.
Right. And I knew, I knew how my husband felt about, my other children, and that he was ready and willing to step in and be the best father figure to both of them. And, I didn't have any fears that he would come off as some kind of like, oh my gosh, I don't want this guy around my kid. It was more like, okay, well, is Walter going to feel threatened by this? And you have come forward today and said that, yeah, that was the case. But, I'm just really glad that you didn't back down from that and give in to those feelings of being, replaced, because that was never my intention.
Well, I appreciate that.
I was hoping that it would come across that, yeah, okay, let's try and work this out. Let's work together. And sure, you can go talk to this guy. Like, okay.
If that's what you want. And to his credit as well, like, a lot of guys have been like, nope, screw this guy. I'm the man of the house. I'm in charge of this relationship. And, I'm the alpha dog now, So that's also to his credit as well.
Right. I don't think a lot of men would have done that.
Yeah, absolutely. Most men probably wouldn't have.
I still remember when I talked to you and I'm like, oh yeah, he said that he could meet you for coffee this night and blah, 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 blah. And you're like, really?
Yeah, I really was shocked. I really was. And I think the biggest point of that conversation was to know who was going to be in my son's life, because I didn't know him at all, except for this guy who just popped up on the radar. And it was like, oh, well, they're seeing each other now, and that was a huge surprise to me. Although I started to kind of figure something was going on. I just didn't know what was happening. So being kind of shocked, and it's like, okay, well, again, if this is going to be part of my life, I need to know what to expect moving forward. And luckily that interaction was peaceful to a degree. Like it really painted your relationship and him in a light that was, I wouldn't say positive at that point for me, but at the same time, it wasn't negative. It was like, okay, this is possible. So that right there, it's like, I got to put myself aside for a second, deal with what is, and then go approach it as, as best we can. And luckily that interaction went really well too. So, there's a lot of other people involved here, and I don't want anybody to get the idea, hopefully, especially now through talking this conversation, that I did all of the work. I think we all did a lot of really hard work together. And I think that's why it's come around in, and let's be honest, a very, very short amount of time. Yeah.
I mean, it's been less than
2 years,
3 years.
So 15.
Well, it's been 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it'll be 3 years because
I'll have moved out.
It was like January of that same year, 2015, that you moved down to the guest room.
Wow, I didn't realize it was January of 15.
Yeah.
I just, my gauge is when I moved into my place, which was September, October that year as well.
Of 15. Yeah. Because it was September that we got married.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
I gotta say, okay, so backstory, we eloped. Didn't tell anybody. Like, his mom and brother knew. But other than that, I think, the neighbor across the street that I'm really close with, she knew. But I'm gonna say that was it.
Yeah. Nobody.
So coming back from that trip, and knowing, okay, we are married now, and now I'm gonna have to tell people. I was more nervous and scared to tell you that we had gotten married than telling my own mother.
Yeah.
I didn't know how you were going to take it. I was a nervous wreck about it. And I think I even took my wedding ring off for like a day or two after we got back, because I was like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready to talk about this. I can't do this. But I just remember one night you and I were sitting in the kitchen talking, and finally it was like, all right, he has to know this is going to happen. Like, all right, here we go.
Yeah.
So you were asking about the trip and how things went, and I finally was just like, all right, so something I got to tell you. And I showed you the ring, and you had just assumed that we had gotten engaged.
Yeah, I figured you guys were going to.
Right. And so I kind of went with that for a little bit. And you're like, well, when's the wedding going to be? I'm like, I don't really know. Soon, maybe-ish. And you were very, congratulations. I'm glad that you're happy. And it was like, wait, what? In my head, I'm going, okay, he's not mad. He's not flipping out. And he's doing okay. So next step, oh, by the way, we already got married. And
I was like, oh, okay, I kind of expected that.
Yeah. And it was like, I feel like in my head, that was the turning point in our relationship.
Yeah.
That it's like, you were okay, at least outwardly okay, and not completely flipping out.
Yeah, that was the first moment, Rad Dads listening, that I started choosing my reactions or my responses instead of giving into my reactions.
Yeah, and it didn't go unnoticed for sure. It was refreshing to have gotten past that, and now it was like a sigh of relief. Like, okay, Walter knows we're married. He's doing okay, at least outwardly.
Yeah.
And so that was good.
Yeah.
Right. And then, of course, I had to tell my mother, which she didn't take it nearly as well as you did.
Awesome.
Right. She still brings it up to this day. I mean, we've been married for almost 3 years, and she's still, you didn't invite me to your wedding. You didn't even tell me about it.
Nobody went.
Nobody knew,
yeah,
Mom.
Yeah.
So it was our choice. We're both adults.
Yeah.
This is how we wanted it.
Yeah.
And, anyway.
And that's just it.
Story.
Like, yeah, I mean, I think it's a great story, actually.
I want to put it out there.
That.
I love my mother. She's one of my best friends, and I talk to her almost every day. So she's not a horrible person.
Yeah. By the way, I will say this, that I enjoy being around your mom now. Not as much before. Cause I felt she was really judging me. I knew you would go to her to advice, just like I would go to my dad for advice, that sort of thing.
Right.
And I felt like I was being harshly
judged. You
judged.
didn't go to your mom for advice?
Another podcast. That's just slap some mayonnaise on it. We're good. Another backstory there. No, I just felt like I was being harshly judged. And then once I was like, you know what? I can't control what other people think. And I accepted. I feel like I can get along way better with your mom now than ever before.
Yeah.
And I
think my mom sees the difference in how you accepted being a co-parent as opposed to how my ex-husband accepted being a co-parent. And that was a big change for her to see, like, you're a great dad and you want what's best for our son. And that just really changed her mindset. Yeah. Not that she thought you were a horrible person to begin with, but just how you have handled everything.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate that. And that, of course, was my goal, is to set myself apart from the thing I just absolutely despised, which is, the hands off, the I'm a victim, the, I'll never be able to figure this out, and the world is crashing and all this stuff happened to me, but I'm a decent guy kind of attitude. I didn't want that.
It's everybody else's fault.
And I knew I had to overcome that too. I mean, full disclosure, we mentioned it briefly, but we haven't talked about your first marriage. And I don't know that there's in this conversation room for that, to be honest with you. But to suffice it to say that it is not the same experience that you and I have experienced to this point at all.
Correct.
It is it is something that a lot of people fear. Although there are ways in which you are making it work now. And I want to continue to be a resource for that, and to be helpful in that, in the fostering of that relationship and the repair of that as much as possible.
Yeah.
And that extends, I think the most it extends is, I enjoy being I hasten to use the word role model, but to your daughter, and a resource to her as well. Yeah. And that was another thing I had to work on as well. But I really appreciate that. And I understand she didn't choose the situation either, but it doesn't mean we can't make it the best we can. And I've always regarded you and my son and your mom and everyone, your family, your husband now, by proxy, you're my family. And we need to find a way to work. And I got to be honest, I think that we work better than a lot of families. And I'm really proud of that. I'm really happy with that too. So much so. And we've come so far that it's something that we had talked about when we were living under the same roof for the longest time. And this, when it gets to this age, I want to do this thing. And now we're really approaching that. In fact, we're only a couple weeks away to our celebratory my son's fifth year birthday. Man, 5.
Oh my gosh.
And it's been a wrestle. I was afraid. Here's the thing. I was afraid you were going to take him without me, and I didn't want to be there at home knowing that that was the biggest thing I was afraid of, is that you would do that because you have the means to take him and do that without me. And I wouldn't be there to experience that. So first I want to thank you for working it to this point. I'm sure it crossed your mind. But it was one thing that I'm glad we decided that it worked out. And it did, just because of your youngest daughter and his age and my situation, my living situation. Without further ado, I won't tease this out any further. As a family, we are all going to Disneyland together. Yes. And I am super excited about this. Not only is this something I've been wanting to do for a very, very long time, but to do it in a way where you, our son, myself, and your husband, both your daughters, and I know that your mom was thinking about coming too, and I invited my family. It was one of those things like, let's all celebrate this victory together, because it's this huge victory for our family, even as non-traditional as it is. And so I'm super excited about bringing the We RAD DADS show to Disneyland, as a matter of fact.
That's going to be fun.
And so we're going to probably do a little roundtable, or who knows? I'm not sure what's going to happen. So guys, in the We RAD DADS Facebook group, go ahead. I'm going to start a thread. Let's have some ideas for Disneyland episodes. Now, filming in the park is not allowed, but audio may be. So give me some ideas if you have some. If not, I'm just going to come up with some stuff. Maybe we'll do some round robin stuff. But I really did want to extend yet another thank you for working this out and to this point. And be frank, a lot of times planning vacations are difficult, and they incite a lot of negative feelings toward one another because one person wants to do this. I think this whole process has been super exciting to me and us, because this is kind of not the finish line, but just definitely a celebration of how far we've come and the things that we've overcome in the process.
And my husband is super excited about it as well. And I think he's most excited about the the part that you guys have planned to go to downtown Disney and to the new, it's some new like virtual reality Star Wars something. And he is like pumped.
Yeah. He brought it up to me. He's like, oh, yeah, I found out about this virtual reality and maybe you and I was like, this is yes, all the yeses. And, I was really very thankful that he and I have come to a point where it's just like, all right, well, I accept you and I accept you back and forth to where let's now you and I go and do something other than go to a cafe, go to coffee and talk smack about your wife to be, you know, even though that never actually happened. This actually would be one of the very few times besides then, that he and I have made an appointment to do something together. So, yeah, I mean, we have had Brett's birthdays here at our house where, our son's birthday, here at our house, and your family comes and you come, and you were here for our daughter's first birthday. Yeah. And so it's not like the first time that you guys have hung out, but just the two of you. Yes, that would be the second time. Those parties those engagements are always interesting to me because, people who don't know or are meeting you for the first time, say your youngest daughter's first, they look at me like, wait a minute, aren't you supposed to be, I feel like they have this idea that we're supposed to be mortal enemies, you know, and here we are, like, I'm showing up at your house and I'm bringing gifts and I'm like helping as much as I can. And it's not this weird fight. And you're in the pool playing volleyball with our friends. It's almost as if it's weird that it's not weird, you know? Right. Which I love. I love that. And that should be my new hashtag, by the way. It's weird that it's not weird. Yeah. So, going back to the, the planning of the Disneyland thing, when my husband and I planned the trip that we got married on, originally that trip was supposed to be a Disneyland trip for he and I and my daughter and our son. Mm-hmm. And we started planning this trip, and okay, we're going to take the kids to Disneyland and it's going to be fun. Our son was only like two and a half at the time, and I was like, well, it'll be fun. And then I think that you kind of got like an idea that it was being planned, and you had brought up to me like, I want to be able to be there for our son's first trip to Disneyland. And as much as I was like pissed about it at the time, I was like, really? We've been spending time planning this trip, and now he's saying that he doesn't want, I can't take him, and blah, 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 blah. I didn't say you couldn't take him. I didn't say that. No, it was that, you really... I wanted to be part of it. Right. I wanted to be part of it. As at arm's length as it could be, I still wanted to be part of it. Right. So he and I just decided, okay, well, we'll take a trip, just the two of us, to Hawaii. And then that evolved to us getting married in Hawaii. So I have you to thank for that trip. You're welcome. Yeah, I'm glad that you were able to take that into account, at that point, especially because it was really hard to not rock the boat. It was already a really choppy sea, and I'm glad that you were able to hear my concerns. And I knew at that point, like, it was all about my style of communication. Like, if I came at you aggressively, if I tried to make you do what I wanted to do, you and I are both the kind of people to be like, oh yeah, well, watch this. I'm going to do it just because you don't want me to. Yeah. You don't want me to what? Yeah, exactly. I'll do just that thing. Right? Like a typical, toddler or whatever. Totally not me. I don't know what you're talking about. I know a few things about you, believe it or not. Yeah. So I'm really happy that ended up working out. And luckily I was able to say, like, yeah, you could take him to Disneyland. That's fine. But what happens when it's nap time and blah, blah, blah. And luckily, it worked out to where here we are now planning it. And I'm thankful that we've had that time between then and now to kind of like marinate our relationship to the point where it's like stewed to perfection. Do you like the food analogy? Yeah. Marinated? I'm like kind of hungry right now because it's past my lunchtime. So thanks for that. You're welcome. You're welcome. You know what? We've been going on. There's a lot to our story. I'm very happy to be able to cover this, but I tell you what, let's get into some of the listener questions, people who have brought up some questions to me through the We RAD Dads Facebook group. And I'm just going to go do this real quick. Guys, if you're listening, join the We Rad Dads Facebook group. That's all there is to it. Like, you've heard here firsthand, why should you be in the We Rad Dads Facebook group? Because we're men helping men. We're rad dads helping rad dads. There's zero judgment as long as there's zero bitching. You know, that's really what it comes down to. We really enjoy helping people who want to benefit, to make a better situation for themselves and their families. And the group is full of men like that. So if you have been listening to my story, our story as a family, and how far we've come, the We Rad Dads group will help you find that for yourself. And if not, we'll die trying. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. So guys, go over there, sign up, We Rad Dads Facebook group. I'm not going to give you an URL. Nobody does that. Nobody types in URLs anymore. So please go do that. All right, some listener questions. First question: what are you doing in the We Rad Dads Facebook group, Cori? Why are you there? Why are you there?
Well, I was invited by Walter, and I originally joined the group because I was confused as to what exactly he was doing.
Yeah.
Okay, what is this? What is he doing? Why? I didn't understand the concept. Like I said, I didn't see the vision. And I wanted to know what was going on. I was nosy.
Yeah.
And so, but as I've been watching from the sidelines, you know, how the group has evolved and it's started, it's actually, like I said, it's very refreshing to see you guys all just supporting each other. And it's nice to see men that care.
Yeah.
That they are willing to be vulnerable with other men. And I haven't on the group yet given a lot of my like female perspective on things because I don't think that's what they're really looking for at this point.
Yeah.
I'm going to put it out there. Any of the guys that would like a female opinion on something, I'm more than willing to respond to questions if you would like, but just let me know.
Yeah. Awesome. I appreciate that. We all appreciate that because, like I said, we don't really understand what's going on the other half. We're so busy, tied up in our own heads that it's really hard to placate your mind to what other people are thinking or doing. And a lot of times our assessment of the situation is just wrong. Like, how many times in this conversation have I said, well, I think your friends think of me as this, and I think your mom has, feels this way about me. But the reality is that's probably not accurate. So thank you. And I have an answer for that question too. What is Cori doing in the We Rad Dads Facebook group? Honestly, I tried to block her. When I made my new Facebook group or Facebook profile and did the whole new, like, brand new Walter 2.0, I actually tried to block you out of it, but accidentally added you to it. Right? Typical jackass move. But in effect, what ended up happening is I inadvertently showed up as this concerned parent, and I think she saw that and saw what I was doing with the group, and that's another catalyst for pushing us forward to this point so far. So if there's any takeaway there, I would say just be honest, no matter, and vulnerable to any degree and probably past any degree you feel comfortable with your other, just so that you can begin to foster the relationship that you desire. Even if it doesn't work out, like you said before, like, it's better to have tried and have it not work out than to always wonder if. So, yeah. And it doesn't mean it has to work out immediately. Again, this was something that evolved over the course of now 3 years, which is super short, by the way. I'm really proud of that. Okay. Next question is the beard question. Oh gosh. Yeah.
I thought I addressed this last night.
Well, a little bit, but that was the Facebook Live, which, if you're listening and you're wondering, like, maybe I should join the We Rad Dads Facebook group, there's a lot of live content there that doesn't get rebroadcasted on the podcast. And so we're going to continue to do a lot of that Q&A stuff that hopefully will end up on the podcast, but a lot of one-off content there. So the beard question is like, okay, what's with beards? Do women find them attractive? Do they scare people away? Like, this is a big fad thing right now, and it's a good question I have because clearly I have a wonderful beard.
Right. So, from a woman's perspective, I think a beard can be totally sexy if it's like maintained. Like nobody likes, like those long, stringy, weird, like almost dreadlocky looking beards. And, you know, if you're getting food stuck in it, or if it's like if it dangles down into your plate when you eat, that's not super attractive, at least in my mind.
Right.
You know, a nice, like, clean, well taken care of beard, can totally be sexy. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Is it a primal thing? Is like, because I overheard when we were FaceTiming, just the other day, when you were at work and somebody said something about, and I quote, my daughter asked where babies came from. And
oh gosh, the beard.
Yeah. And she said babies come from beards. And I was like, okay, is that because it's some sort of aphrodisiac? Is it primal? Like, I don't know.
I have no idea. I wouldn't necessarily say that beards are my thing. So, all right. But I can see, you know, I can appreciate a nice looking beard.
All right. We'll leave it at that. And, thank you for a woman's perspective. This question is from Ben Hawks, who is a frequent user of the We RAD Dads group, has sent me personal emails and has been seeing real progress here. And I'm extremely proud to have been on, not only on the We RAD Dads Facebook group, but as a friend as well. And thank you so much for leaning in, because it's really scary. I know how scary it is to ask these questions and being vulnerable, but thank you for doing so, because you're making the group that much better. Ben's question, what was your biggest challenge to working together as a team, and how did you overcome said challenge? So our biggest challenge, you and I, Cori, for working together, what was our biggest challenge, would you say?
I think it goes back to, like our roots was we never had a chance to really develop a relationship with each other before being thrown into being parents together.
Yeah.
And not knowing a whole lot about each other as people before becoming parents. And I think that was a big challenge, was just, figuring out who we are as people and how we communicate and how to talk to each other.
Yeah.
And I guess I would say that's our biggest challenge. That was our biggest challenge.
That was definitely our initial biggest challenge. That's for sure. Yeah.
And then since the split, the biggest challenge.
I would go out and say trusting one another.
Yeah.
To do what it is that we said we were going to do, and to be the person that the other wanted us to or expected us to be. And I think that was accomplished through communication. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think the trust thing is huge because, you know, it's a really awkward and new kind of idea to look at your ex-wife or your ex-husband or your ex whatever, and know what you have been through as a couple, and then what it was that broke you apart, and then to have that trust again, to know that they're going to make the right decisions for your child or your children. Not just something to spite you or to, you know. Right. That you have to just kind of sit back and realize that it's not in your control. There's nothing that I can do that's going to change any decision that you make. I can always voice my opinion and I can tell you what I think about it. But it's not going to change what you decide to do. And that you just have to have that trust, and it's so hard. Yeah, to release that sort of the inclination to want to control somebody's actions. That sometimes marriages, you know, that's the result of it, is one person trying to control the other person, and just to allow that the other to do what they're going to do. And I think the best way to get the other, in my experience, limited as it may be, to get the other to play fair is to just play fair in your own right and do what you say you're going to do and be on time, like really show them the integrity behind who you want to be and what you want this relationship to be, even if it can't be received in a verbal way.
Well, and I think that it's important to remember that your children are watching.
Yes.
And they're going to see the way that you treat the other person in this relationship this past relationship, but they're also going to see the way that they're treating you. And eventually they're going to grow up. They're going to understand that, you know, they'll eventually see that you've tried, that you always had their best interest at heart, and that, it's not going to go unnoticed forever. I think that parenting, especially young kids, is such a thankless job that they are needy little individuals, and, you know, they don't have that sense of selflessness at all. It's all about me. And, you know,
that's all they know. That's it.
Right.
That's
our
all they know.
son is in that spot right now. He's almost 5, and it's just like, has a hard time understanding, like, okay, well, you know, sister wants to do this, so this is what we're going to do right now. And next we'll do what you want to do. So.
Yeah. Kids are watching.
Yeah. They're watching. I think that's the take home.
And they're learning good, bad, or indifferent. Like this interpersonal thing it's not taught in schools. It's taught at home. It's taught through your interactions. And I think modeling behavior and modeling attitudes is the absolute best way to teach your children to be the people that you want them to be, is to just be that person yourself. And so
I think that it's important for you to teach your children how they should treat other people, but also how other people should be treating them.
Right. Yeah. To set up those boundaries and to know, like, okay, well, you know, this isn't right. Or that's a really tough thing to do, because if you have a caustic spouse or ex-spouse or whatever, and that relationship is tarnished to whatever degree, it's very difficult to show your child that you can be amicable and what that means, and the difference between being an understanding, accepting parent and somebody who bends over backwards and is a doormat. Like, that's a really fine line, and it moves. It moves.
It is. And I'm going to go out and say it's never, ever a good idea to talk badly about the other person in this situation to your children. Yeah. Like, go to a therapist, talk to a friend, talk to a family member. Do not talk badly about your, you know, ex-spouse or your ex whatever in front of your kids. Because that's what they're going to remember. They're going to remember that, you know, and that's who they'll become.
That's exactly who they will become. And I'm going to caveat that a little bit, is that, oh man, I just lost it. I had it. That's what the kids are going to become when you talk badly about your spouse, and that's what they expect. And you will become, here it is, you will become your thoughts. So whatever your thoughts are, like if positive or negative, hold on just a sec, please. Sorry, no. That sounded poor. You will become your thoughts. So if you think negatively of somebody, whether or not you say it, like that is what your thought process will go to immediately. That's what your words will go to. So just extend as much as you can grace to yourself first, but to the other people. And just like that, we've been through a lot. Like they need to decompress.
And I think that if they grow up hearing you talk about their mom or their mom about that, sorry, I'm losing my words.
That's all right.
That they're going to think that it's appropriate for other people to talk about them like that.
And to do it themselves or about their friends. And it's this whole thing. Like, we've said it before here many times. You are the average of the 5 closest people in your life. And if those are the closest people that your children are attracting in their lives, that's who they're going to be. So like, this is the benefit of modeling that at home. Being this person is the ripple effect when it comes to your kids and their life and their relationships and their friendships. And especially in a time when they're learning and growing. I know our son he's learning a lot about himself just by seeing how we work together and how we talk to him and how we relate to him. So it's thankless, like you said before, but the legacy of it all, here it comes again, you know, that possible regret of, oh man, I wish I had done X, Y, and Z instead of putting in the work and doing the necessary, you know what? Yeah, I'll eat crow. I'm going to put myself in the vulnerability place of possibly being a doormat in the hopes that as opposed to 10 years, in 1 year, I can get to a point where I can talk with my ex or have amicable conversation or do what we do from day one. We would do every morning and every night FaceTime call. And there were many, many times, especially at first, where you or I did not utter a word and was not in the picture at all. Now that has completely changed. We have family conversations a lot via FaceTime. Yeah. So those were vulnerable times, you know, to invite quote unquote you into our home and vice versa. But I'm glad we made those commitments. So hopefully, Ben Hawks, that can answer some of your questions here. Of course, we're always available, the We RAD Dads Facebook group, if you have more. I've got one more listener question from Cameron Bahan, friend of the show, former guest. Cameron writes, what were your difficulties in co-parenting, and what did I do to alleviate those concerns? Okay, so Cori, with respect to you, what were your difficulties in co-parenting, and what did I, Walter, do to alleviate those concerns? Alleviate those concerns. What did I do to alleviate them? We've covered a little bit of this, but can you think
I think so. I think a big part of co-parenting is all of a sudden you are a single parent.
Yeah.
And even though you share custody with somebody else, there's more of a burden on you for, let's just be honest, like scheduling.
Yeah.
And in my situation, I have one separate schedule for my oldest daughter, and then I have a schedule for our son, and then there's, you know, my husband's schedule, and Jesus. I think just
and your work schedule and my work schedule, and you know, there's a lot.
Right. I have to have a whiteboard of a calendar every month that is color coded so that I don't lose my freaking mind.
Yeah.
And I think that when it comes to co-parenting, trying to be as flexible as you can without, like you said, without being the doormat. And that was always helpful. You know, when I call you, like this morning, I call you at 7:30 in the morning. You know, I was supposed to pick up our son today, and then my 13-year-old daughter had a complete meltdown.
Crisis. Let's not.
Oh my gosh. It was like the end of the world.
I understand. If that happened to you, how would you feel? I mean, at that age, it would be life altering.
It was the end of her world this morning. And I was like, okay, I don't know what you want me to do. What do you want me to do? And then her response was, I don't know.
Another podcast.
And then the fact that I know, right. And then the fact that I was making her go to school during the absolute worst crisis of her life, I was like enemy number one all of a sudden. So the fact that I could call you this morning and say, hey, like something changed. Can you please have our son tonight so that I can take care of this 13-year-old crisis?
Yeah.
And your willingness to be flexible, to change things around and accommodate the fact that I have like way too many changing schedules in my life.
Well, I understand exactly how much you have, because not only do you have all those schedules, but then you have your ex-husband's schedule that you kind of have to share custody with your ex-husband too, with your daughter. Right. I mean, you called me earlier. Was it late last week? Maybe it was yesterday. I lost my days.
Oh yeah, it was last week.
Where I had to pick up your daughter and take her to your house, which, you know, it's a different town. It's only about 20 minutes away or whatever, but still like to be available to you or to your listeners, I think that's really, really important to know that they can count on you for those little things. And I would say taking it a step further is to verbally make yourself available for them for that. And that goes back to showing up when you say, how you say, the whole integrity portion. And I think that's how we built to where we're at now, where we can do those sort of things. We trust one another, and I can go pick up. I don't have any relation to your daughter other than, you know, we have a son together, and, you know, she has a sibling. I enjoy being part of that family. And I know that there are some times that I have to call you and ask, like, hey, life is happening right now. I need a favor. I need this. And if at any point you can, or even sometimes when you can't, you say, okay, I'm going to help you out, because it's one hand washing the other for the benefit of the family. I think more of our actions that display that the deeper and more rich that can be, and we can operate as a family. We don't always have to love it, But I think in the end, I think the effect is really what we love is the knowing that we can count on one another because, man, life gets complicated. And it's not just for you, it's for everyone else too. So, that is awesome. Oh, there's so much. We could tangentialize into this, but as it is, we've been talking for about an hour and a half. So
I know I keep looking at the baby monitor and I'm amazed that the little one is
she's still down
asleep.
for a nap. That's great. I mean, she needed it.
Rustled here and there, but holy moly, she was a hot mess this morning too.
She's adorable. I appreciate her too. Thank you. I want to thank you wholeheartedly for being in my life and being to the point now where you were the one who approached. We had talked about this a couple times, and you were the one who texted me the other night, last night, I think it was, night before, and said, let's do this. Let's get this done. You know, we'd batted around for so long, and I wanted to thank you for coming on the show and being vulnerable and telling our story from our perspective. And it's given me a lot of enlightenment from where you're coming from and where we're going to and what's been working and where my actions are making a difference. And so I really appreciate the co-parenting relationship and the family relationship we have right now. And I'm really looking forward to Disneyland.
Oh my gosh, Disneyland.
So I got one parting question for you.
Okay.
And you can apply this to any of your situations, whether it's me or somebody else. But if you could teleport yourself back to that moment where things just exploded, right? And you could go back to that person you were then as the person you are now and tell them one succinct bit of advice, what would it be? Was that your mind exploding?
Pretty much. Yeah. All of a sudden I'm having to rethink every decision that I've ever made in my 35 years of life. Just
one big takeaway. Like can you sum it up in one like sentence or a short paragraph?
A really important thing to remember when you are talking to anybody is that it's not going to change anything about the situation if your number one goal is to try and hurt them in your words or your actions, that it's not going to make anything better.
No, ever.
I think that you really need to sit back and kind of evaluate yourself. If that is your main goal in life, like revenge or I got to get them back, it's really only going to hurt you.
Yeah.
If, you're going to stew on that your entire life and it's just not good for you mentally, I don't think.
Yeah.
I think that your own happiness needs to come from within and not from making somebody else miserable.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. I think that is very apropos to all of our situations. And it's really nice to hear that from the other half, if you will, from a female perspective. So, I really, really appreciate your time. I appreciate you. And we'll be talking here in another hour or so. But Rad Dads, Cori is available on the We Rad Dads Facebook group. If you have any questions now or in the future, we're there. And both of us have an interest in helping other people, other families get to where we are because it is almost completely indescribable how good it feels to get to this place finally. And that's what I want for all of you guys. And I'm very certain that Cori feels the same way. So Thank you yet again. I look forward to having you on again. Maybe we can have some more Q&A stuff or we could tell some more of our story because there's a lot of it.
Yeah, of course.
And we'll come to you live or live-ish from Disneyland as well.
Yay!
All right. Thanks again, Cori. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, of course.
Holy smokes, guys. I have been long anticipating this episode, and I'm super excited to have had Cori come on the show. There's just, I don't want to sit here and show off and make people feel bad about their situations, but I got to tell you, I'm very, very blessed, and I feel super grateful that despite our circumstances, we were able to work together and create the family that we wanted to see. It's not traditional. It's not normal, but we were able to defy the the common notion that somehow because we're not a traditional family any longer, that we have to be at odds with one another. In fact, I think that our relationship now is way stronger than it ever has been. And it's unfortunate that we had to go through this, as we did talk about in the interview, but the effect of this is it's greater. And again, this is what I want to bring to you guys. And I think it can be done to at least a certain degree. Your situation may differ, your mileage may vary, and I can't control other people. I think that's a very interesting concept, but I was blessed to be in this situation with people who are willing to work on it. And it really came down to small acts of faith on both of our part. And as I hope our interview has emphasized time and again, I mean, frankly, I was blown away when she talked about, well, when I was babysitting her infant daughter at that point. Very huge step for her. I don't think it's that big for me, but I just started living the integrity that I'm talking about. I started being the person that I was telling people that I was. And I stopped telling people that I was this person and started being that person. You know what I mean? I would do what I say I was going to do, and I do it to the best of my ability. Started showing up for people as they needed me. And moreover, I try and offer as much assistance as I possibly can. Guys, I want this for every single one of you guys. I want you to have the same level of peace and trust and gratitude for your family that I'm currently experiencing. And hopefully this episode was able to give you just that. I know it's kind of long form, but I really appreciate every single one of you guys. And if you want to support the show, I'm just going to throw it out there one more time. Guys, audibletrial.com/We RAD DADS. There's a link in the show notes. But if you want to type in the URL, it's audibletrial.com/We RAD DADS. I really appreciate that, guys. And I'm looking forward to meeting you all in the We RAD DADS Facebook group. Go on over there, hook up with us. All right, let's get a live Q&A thing going. I'd like to make that part of the show. Anyway, I appreciate you guys. Keep fighting the good fight. And this is why, right here, this episode. Keep fighting the good fight. Guys, stay up, stay connected, and stay rad, dads. Well, that's it for this episode of We Rad Dads. I sincerely thank you for joining us. Don't forget to look us up at www.weraddads.com. There you can find links to our Facebook page and Twitter account. Got a question or comment? It may be featured. Email me, Walter, at weraddads.com. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks again for joining us. And remember, stay up, stay connected, and stay rad, dads.
Goodbye.
Do it one more time.
Goodbye.
How about, I'll see you later?
I'll see you later.
How about, hasta la vista, baby?
Hasta la vista, baby.
I'll be back.
I'll be back.
I'll be back.
I'll be back.